To our June LBOT meeting. It's a big one, so I'm very excited. Let's start with the procedural activities. Would anyone like to add anything to the, nope? Let me call the meeting to order. I've only done this for a year. I still am not, so maybe by the end of my term, I will have it. But again, maybe not. Call the meeting to order. Would anyone like to add anything to the agenda at this time? Is there a motion to approve the June 25th, 2025 agenda as amended to add the 3 board gathering evaluation and next steps for discussion under unfinished business?
So moved.
Thank you.
Repeat
Second.
that. What were you adding? Repeat it. Can you repeat that?
Yes, so we're going to, in unfinished business, talk about the 3 board gathering and the
Second.
feedback we got on it and what we should do next.
Second.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda consisting of the May 28th, 2025 meeting minutes, the current pending deposited gifts report, and the current statistical reports as submitted or amended? A motion.
I move it.
Okay, and Bill, would you like to second
Sure.
that? Yeah. Is there a motion to approve the reviewed and updated policies as submitted? Is that this package? Oh,
Yeah, Emily's.
okay.
Yeah.
It's number 3 on my list, so over to you, Emily, at the right time. Okay. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to be heard or seen? Nope. All right. Let's get started. Clay, Friends Report?
Yes. Good afternoon, or close to afternoon to everyone. Mr. Ward passed along, thank you, Phil. I'll start that over then. Mr. Ward passed along a few notes. She said the last Friends book sale went very well and that they expect to have additional funds to give the library once the year-end finances are completed. She mentioned that they'd been connected with the director of Triangle Players, and they've done this in the past, reached out to the Friends to get books for a stage production, and they give a donation in kind. And so she said they were going to work with them to make that happen. That request just came in the last week. And they received a letter on behalf of the Friends that she just wanted to share with us. And it states, in quote, "To the librarians and staff of the Richmond Public Library," this is dated June 8th, "thank you for all you do for those of us who read books, those in need of a place to rest, and our entire community. Most of all, I thank you for preserving freedom of information, including continuing to provide books by authors of color and members of the LGBTQ plus community. You are loved." And she just wanted to
Of
send that
course.
along to us. Since
Heartwarming.
that, we don't always get such nice notes.
No.
But in any case, their next meeting is scheduled for July 9th at 5:30 at the main library.
So, thank you and Ruth for more money for the library, yay Friends, and for that really sweet letter. Good.
Thank you.
The foundation.
Thank you, Phil. Good morning, everybody. The foundation is excited to team again with the Shaberg Foundation which has generously supported early learning center improvements across the library system, as well as our summer intern program through a $60,000 grant received last week. Additionally, we are grateful for a donor-advised fund through the Community Foundation with an amount of $8,000. That is another investment in the children's spaces, and all of us here really know how that will help us elevate and improve those spaces and respond to the needs of our community. And we received a small board-recommended grant through the Richmond Memorial Foundation. And so we are grateful to all those members of the public and the foundations that continue to partner with the library to make us better and stronger. As a note, the foundation is also very pleased that we have updated our logo. It now is reflective of the energy that we see in the new Richmond Public Library logo as well. So we're up in our game to keep up with the library. So we'll look a little different over the next few months, and we'll share that out soon. Finally, the foundation would like to thank and recognize the board service of Lynn Kyle Manson, who June 30 will retire from the foundation board after 28 years of service. So we are deeply grateful to her for her service. Thank you. Any questions?
I want to add a comment. The foundation's thrilled when they get $10, $100, $1,000. I mean, this is $8,000. This is all makes us very happy. But we usually don't get 5-digit investments. And last year, Shaberg came to us with $50,000. They liked what we're doing so much, they upped it to $60,000 this year. So we have new and now expanding. That's just the kind of relationship and value we want to see in our local philanthropy to the library.
I couldn't have said that better, Chair Peterson. Thank you so much.
Good work. Yeah. Any questions to Susan? No. Okay, Scott, our fearless leader.
Oh, thanks so much. Not a lot to add to the report that I've included in the packet. I will mention that we've eclipsed the 1 million mark on circulation, and we still have June to put in there, so that's fantastic. And we're up really across the board in all levels on circulation. I want to also highlight that all of the summer interns have started, and they're assisting with the summer reading program, and it's going very well. This weekend is RippleCon, so if you have time to come down to the main library, that is our marquee event. I believe this is the 3rd year of RippleCon, so please come and enjoy the spectacle. It'll be very lively. I want to also compliment and highlight our staff have been very resilient in facing these heat challenges. We've been commented on in the press about we're a cooling center, and we definitely provide that. With not only the people getting cool in the building, they get cool in multiple ways, thermally, but also like emotionally sometimes, and we have some behaviors that escalate, and so staff have been doing pretty well with handling those as well. I want to mention that I got a last-minute call from Counselor Trammell yesterday. She commented that she had some reserve funds left over from her council account, and she is giving $2,400 to the Broad Rock Branch Library to help them do some things for next year.
Yeah.
So
Woohoo.
that will help out with some things, and we're very grateful for Counselor Trammell for doing that. And lastly, I want to mention that Barbara Crump and Tammy Woodson are retiring. They are our folks who've been running RVA Reads. Their last day will be the end of this month, and we are happy for them, but we're also we're going to miss them. They helped us really connect with the community and the families for RVA Reads, and we'll have our challenges filling their shoes. We probably won't be able to, but we're going to give it our best shot. So lots of good things happening. Summer reading program is going big, and that's all I have. Any questions? Been a busy month.
How is it, you talk about the heat, people coming in, What is that looking like? I mean, are there tons of people or, you know?
I'm not getting really reports that we've got like people falling out, like we haven't had to call the emergency crew or anything like that. But folks, you know, we've made them aware that the space is available and it's a conditioned space during our regular hours. Heather might be able to give us some anecdotal answers.
Yesterday, we had a local daycare whose HVAC system went out because of the heat. So they spent the day at Broad Rock, and it was very effective. They were really appreciative.
Oh, that's,
How many?
Our door count was 670.
yes, sir.
I think it was only 15 kids, so I'm not sure where they came from. But clearly people were coming in.
It's a busy day.
But you said we give them water, anything?
Well, we have water bottle filling stations at all the locations. We aren't a center, we're just a place for people to come in and get cool. So we also connect them to shelter resources if they need an escalated level of care or help.
Okay.
Great. Do you want to introduce Lisa?
Oh, let me introduce, Lisa Chrisman is our branch manager here at the West End branch. She's been here, started off at North Avenue many years ago. I'll let her talk about how, I don't like to talk about how long people have been here, but she's done a fantastic job, and first started working with Lisa when we did the renovation here, and we got to see this building get torn down to the studs and rebuilt. So Lisa, tell us what's going on.
Well, welcome to the West End Library. It's nice to see you all here today. And yes, I have been here, and I was fortunate to go through that renovation process. The library was taken all the way down to the bare walls because it had been deemed, the heating and air conditioning system had been deemed a sick building, basically, before I came. So that was part of the remodel. We got a completely new heating and air conditioning system, plus all new flooring, shelving, furniture, everything. So very fortunate. And we were able to expand. You know, this library opened in 1978. It had been a bookmobile stop for many years prior to that. And because it was an active bookmobile location, then at that point, they voted to go ahead and put in a new branch. So that was 1978, so we celebrated our 40th anniversary in 2018, which was just a year after we reopened from the remodel. So we were closed for 14 months for that remodel because of the extent to what happened, and then also the addition of about 1,100 square feet and the patio and the extra seating. But it really did improve what we were able to offer to the community too, because we've always had a very busy family and children's area, so we were able to expand that area. And then also we added the study room, and one of the things for this year, we've had approximately 1,200 people use that study room just in FY25. So it does make a difference, and I know we talk quite often about how nice it would be to have one of those in every location, because it is, especially once the word gets out, it's quite a resource for folks. It can be people who are just studying, maybe they're having a Zoom meeting, maybe it's a small group meeting. We've had really small little book clubs that meet in there. It's a wide range. We have tutors who use the building. We were the last branch to renovate in that capital improvement project that started way back in 2010, I think it was. So one thing about West End branch that I've come to learn here, and I've been here over 10 years now, and we really have a continuity of community here, and it's always fun when you have people come in, and we'll have grandparents who bring their grandchildren, we'll have parents who came here as children, who are now bringing their children, and we also have the Westwood community right behind us here, which is a historic Black community and a wonderful church there that has I think they celebrated over 175 years now. So it's interesting because we talk about the socioeconomic level all around the city in different places, but and this branch also, we have people who are single families, who are working parents, who are we have a lot of seniors in our community. That's one of the focuses I have right now is trying to bring in more programming. And we have a group that comes from Southside and meets here regularly. They've reserved the meeting room. And this past Monday when they met, they actually stayed for our senior bowling. Nico does a bowling program on Monday afternoons with the Wii in here, so you can sit or you can stand,
Yeah.
and it's nice. And so they, we've told them a couple of times because they usually come, on Monday mornings from like 11 to 1. We said, hey, you might want to stay. So they did, and they enjoyed it, and they were going to talk it up with some of their friends. So it's, always getting the word out and communicating with people. Our story times are busy. We have a couple of toddler times now because the toddler time got so big. So we do 2 on the same day. We have a preschool and a baby story time. We have been a partner with the Richmond Public School System since prior to COVID with the English language acquisition program that they offer through the adult ed department for adult learners. And so we have had those classes going on here on Tuesdays and Thursdays since prior to COVID, and then had a little break in there, and then they have come back again. And we generally have at least 6 to 8 to maybe 10 students in those each semester, fall and spring. Lots of tutors who use the space. They may just be at a table, they might be over in the teen area, they could be in the study room, but we do have that as well. Our meeting room usage is robust. We took a little time again after the COVID recovery, but now we have many different groups using the space, community groups, civic groups, people from even this PTA or the schools will sometimes meet. I'm doing some outreach with the St. Stephen's Farmers Market once a month, starting in May and through October, just taking information. I found that was really good, especially when we were closed for remodeling. It was a great way to update the community on how things were going, and had the plans there, and then just a different variety of things for kids to do, or taking books along, and then people will sit down and read together sometimes, just even that the thing. And so then tonight we're having our first district town hall meeting, and so we'll be there. I try to attend those whenever our council person has a meeting, though, just because it is great to be a part of that. And I know that the support of the council was a big part of us being able to get that addition when the time came back in 2015. So really appreciative of that. So this is I feel very fortunate to be here as manager at this branch. It's a great place to be, and part of a wonderful whole library system. Anybody have any questions about the West End branch?
I have a comment.
Yes.
One of the things we heard at our 3 board meeting from our Library of Virginia person is that the pyramid demographic, with children being the biggest, is getting ready by 2030 to flip around. So I am so happy to hear that you're looking at senior programs, because that puts us ahead of the event as us thinking ahead of time. So good work.
Thank you. Yes, I've been reading the similar statistics too, and it is, there's a big change that's coming as population growth. Well, thank you all very much.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. All right. Advocacy Task Force. Should I go ahead?
Go ahead.
Okay, so before, at our May meeting, we'd had 2 town hall presentations where a trustee, a library person, a children's person went in. From May to this meeting, we've had 3. We had Garrett with District 3, Sharon with District 7, and Cynthia and Brent with District 8. And then tonight, Lisa, Emily, and I all get to go to Mary Munford for our last one. The 2 I attended were terrific. They were very different, but they were terrific. Give me your feedback, Sharon, Garrett. What did you find it valuable? And there's no wrong answer to this. Just what did you think?
First, I want to say that the staff I think it was from, was it Park, I believe, that was there? Fantastic.
Yeah.
Did a phenomenal job just giving an overview of the library and all the different resources. There were so many people that came up to us after the meeting ended thanking us. They didn't even know a lot of the resources that were available in the library. So they're like, oh, I'm going to come now because
Yeah.
now I know you offer that.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really, really good. There also was another young lady that lives in the third. She moved there about 6 years ago. She wants to get involved with the library. So she was like, I think I'm ready for like the board level, but maybe we can consider her maybe like friends or something like that. But yeah, it was very, very, very well received.
Yeah.
And we left with no information remaining. We passed it out to every single
Yeah.
person that was
Yeah.
in attendance. And Kenya and I, we've continued to have conversations post that meeting. And she was like, come back whenever you would like to. We could bring in North Avenue, whoever wants to be a part of the meeting. She's more than happy to reserve a spot for them for every town hall meeting that she has.
Sharon, what was your feel?
The staff that came did a wonderful presentation. I was sitting in the audience looking at how the people were reacting, and their eyes were open like, through the whole thing. A lot of things they weren't aware of. I said it was the day of the water crisis, and she had
Oh my gosh,
the,
that you had their attention at all. Yeah.
The gentleman who's in charge of the city water spoke for an hour, so the time was a little limited on what they could speak. But I know she would love to have them back with a larger audience. And all. But as I said, those that were there were very impressed.
Okay. Cynthia, bring us home. Speak for Brent and you.
I think Brent was a little overwhelmed at how many people was at Reva's meeting.
Yeah.
Scott was there. Heather was there. Danielle.
Heather's
came.
always there.
No,
Yeah.
but Danielle came, and April, the children's librarian from 14th Street. She was there.
Okay.
Oh, and I had 3 members of my advisory board that came out also. Terrific information.
Okay.
There's always so much information at Reva's meeting, and the difference between Reva and the Cole meetings are completely different, but they're very
Scott
informative.
had tried to educate me that each one has their own little microsystem.
And a lot of people, I guess they don't realize because Reva is in the satellite,
Right.
but it's convenient. Like when I wasn't driving, the bus lets me off right there, and then when I'm leaving, the bus is right across the street, and it's like 3 or 4 other people that's taking the bus, so I always feel safe. But very, very informative. Very.
So I love how our branch managers show up at the town halls.
Yes.
And I think that is foundational. But I'll ask Scott to think about annually prior to summer reading, do we want to repeat this every year or do we not want to repeat this? It's your call. I would like to work with Jen to come up with what went well and what would we do, where did we miss, so that if we were to do it again, what would we do better? But think about that. I think my experience was a good one. Speaking is different than presence. Presence is foundational, but there's momentum that goes on when you get in front of that lector. So ponder that.
Oh, Reva had posted with our picture. Remember, she had the library sign.
We had the
And
little
on her
sign.
Facebook page, she posted up. Thank you for all you guys' support for the libraries, and they're much needed. Yeah.
That's probably why we got the money from Reva
Yeah,
too. So
exactly.
yeah, it probably all comes together.
Yeah.
Oh, adorable. All right. So we'll think about that, Emily and I, Lisa. We'll wrap it up, and then turn it over to Scott to decide how and if he wants to do something. I think we trustees would be happy to participate if he decided to go forward. I am now very excited to turn it over to Emily to talk about Policy Task Force. And I learned so much reading this. Yeah, for me, it's already been a huge success. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chris. Chris asked me to lead this policy review this year. We had not done a major or complete policy review in several years, since I had been on the board, certainly. So the number one goal for this policy review this time is just to get a 2025 date on all of these things, make sure that everything is current and is serving our needs right now. Scott and I, just even before this meeting, were talking about another area where, you know, there's more opportunity to add some additional policy, but just making sure that everything works right now and that we don't have any cobwebs. There's no broken links, there's no out-of-date information, and that everything reflects, you know, how the libraries are working now, and
it's
is adequate
huge
for the policies.
undertaking. Huge.
There were many policies, yeah. So hopefully this will be, I think the idea I got from Chris and my recommendation also would be that we do this annually, that we review and we get a current date on our policies annually. Though hopefully I think this will be more of an incremental process, and we'll be able to pick and choose the things that just get, okay, this still works for us, and the things where we invest more time in research and updating. The great news, even though some of these policies had not been updated or approved in the past few years, is that the ones that needed to change had been updated. And
Super.
Most of the policies that we were looking at needed minor changes or are still working. So with that said, I'll go through some of the areas where there were more changes or where there was good discussion, which might be an area to look at in the future. And then Scott, you can feel free to jump in with additional context.
Yep.
For any of this, please do. So I will start with policy 4.02, which is like a big policy document of behaviors and conduct in the library. So this is a big one. We didn't do major changes to this one because in speaking with Scott, his recommendation was that most of these, having these on the book is helpful, and that most of these did not need major revision. The area where I think we did the most clarification, it had actually been in the older document as well, but number 11 about personal belongings, there was some clarification to the presence of like personal belongings or bulky items, things like that in the library, because I think that had come up. But most of this, I think this is an area where more feedback in the future will be helpful and good for us to know, but where we hadn't really made major changes, but it's like a big part of the document, so I wanted to touch on that one. The other area where we did not make significant changes, but where I think there's good discussion for in the future is 4.07 about the supervision of children policy. Scott had advised that this was working well. There's some squishiness in the policy because it doesn't give a specific age. It doesn't give very specific guidelines because, we have situations like tutoring where you might have a very responsible, quiet 11-year-old or a rowdy 13-year-old, right? So having that squishiness in there allows staff to use their judgment. But this is an area where we did have a lot of discussion.
Emily, that's what I wondered about, just because of the teenagers, thinking of the 16, 17, 18, well, 16, 17, 18 even as teenagers, 19, coming down, driving on their own, the idea that their parents have to be reachable.
Right. Well, it does say children. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's a little bit vague in there. I just didn't know whether.
Yeah.
We really just mean that for the 11 and unders, 12 and unders.
yes. So
Okay.
elsewhere in that
There's an 11 and
conduct
under
document,
earlier,
there is an
yeah.
11 and under
Right.
mentioned, but I think after speaking about it, we left the squishiness in.
Okay.
But this is one where I still feel a little bit of uncertainty. So I think that this is one where, additional feedback from, the community service liaisons would be helpful in the future. But we're keeping that as is. 501, library card registration. This is an area where we did make some changes to the types of library cards which are available. In the prior version of this document, there had also been a PC guest card and a temporary card, and those have been removed. There is still an e-card. So I'll say the full permission library card requires identification to be shown, and then it allows full privileges for using electronic items and also taking things out of the library.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
For a child's card, is there parental information that's stored? Like, I'm looking back at the previous one that we talked about, 407. If you have to contact the parent,
Yeah, so I believe that I don't know the specifics.
I don't know,
Do you know
when
whether-
a youth applies for a card, is there contact information that's stored?
Yes.
Like where you would,
Yes.
Parents' name and contact
Oh,
information
that-
is on their card, on their record in the system.
So if we have a question about a child in danger, we call the police.
Okay.
So that's kind of the bottom line when it comes to those sorts of issues. If we can't find a caregiver and a child looks like they're in danger to themselves or others, we call the police. That's the bottom line. So we, in general, don't mess around with like finding a caregiver. Sometimes, occasionally if we know the child, we can track them down that way, but most of the time we call the police.
Okay.
Yep.
So the PC guest card and the temporary cards were removed from the policy document. The e-card allows both computer access and access to electronic resources, and one can apply for that through a form online, does not need to show identification. So that would provide library users with access, but would not, I think there were issues with the use of those PC guest cards and the temporary
Yeah.
cards, is that correct?
So the PC guest cards and the temporary cards, those would be things where folks didn't present identification necessarily or solid identification, and so we didn't have an accountable person for who was using the computer. So we're making it a baseline that if you want to use a computer or check out a book, we need your identification. We need to make sure that you fit the requirements, and so it just requires that folks have a library card. If someone has questionable residency, we work with them to get information to verify where they're at, and we'll do that. So we had people refusing to give us information, and then what would happen is we'd let them use a computer. They might have a behavior problem, and we would have no way to track down who they were. So we need to bar someone, and we'd have no information on them, and so it just become a continuing problem. So we're eliminating that as a baseline, as a option for people. So if someone comes in and they need to use a computer and they don't have a library card, they're only visiting, we can give someone a guest card, which they can use for the day, and that becomes the standard, instead of a PC guest card or a temporary card, which becomes like a permanent card that they can carry for temporary card that they can carry for a certain amount of time. So we've tried to make sure we're being open and welcoming for people who need temporary status, like temporary use, but we also want to hold people accountable. If they're going to be here routinely, we need to know who you are using the resources. So that's why we've eliminated those.
Well, okay, it may sound like a stupid question, but when they show ID, does it have to be current?
Yes. There's a
Because-
list of, if you go to the top of the form, there's a proof of identification, so photo identification has to be provided. Yep.
I'm saying current because now everyone's required to get this real ID, and there are some people who can't get it.
Mhm.
So their old driver's license may expire before they can get, a real ID.
Mhm.
Would that be enough proof of ID, for them to get a library card?
Well, there are other forms of things that they can present for a library card, so that you can
Well,
present.
I know of a person, for example, whose his birth certificate has a different name than his name. His mother did something crazy, so he can't get a real ID. He has no passport. You know, can he get a library card?
If he has another form of identification, so if he has another form of identification that is current, you would be able to get a library card.
Scott, he can also get it with the standard Virginia driver's license,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
But I'm saying his driver's license,
Yeah,
right, you could just
we
get
don't, we
his
don't.
driver's
That's
license
fine.
expired.
You can get a regular driver, I mean.
You
if
can
it's-
get a you don't need to get a real ID.
You can get a regular driver's license
Yeah.
until you can figure out the real ID if you have a
Yeah.
problem, so your state
Okay.
driver's license is valid. I mean,
Yeah, we're not requiring real ID.
Okay.
But you also have some other things in there, right? School IDs,
Yeah.
work IDs even.
Yep. And then we try and
and
we verify residential address with like a utility bill, you know, voter registration, canceled mail even. So we're trying to get as much information as we can on our users so we can stay in
Yeah,
contact
I
with them.
understand that.
Yep.
And going to Sharon's question then, if they had a recent canceled utility bill and an expired driver's license, you'd be okay, because you say, yeah, this is the person, and yeah, we see they're
Yes.
still a city resident.
My managers are nodding their head. Yes, that's how we do it. Yeah.
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 So I have a question about the e-card.
Hmm.
It says that I can use it to use a computer workstation.
Right. And when you come in, we convert it to a regular library card. So
Okay.
sometimes people, I think I think you can use an e-card to get on, but you have to put in information to get an e-card. So it's not just a blank.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's as much information as I would put in to get a library card.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there other questions about that? That's one of the bigger changes, I think. And then the collection development policy, we looked at that. We did not make significant changes to that because that one had been reviewed within the last couple years.
And I've gone through, Chris raised a good question this weekend. How are we looking in terms of like, are we in line with ALA and those things? And we check all the boxes on our ALA guidelines and templates. So I have to say, as collection development policies goes, this one serves us well.
Excellent.
We had a test recently from even this location, and we were able to explain to the patron that we couldn't remove the book, and this is why, and it all met the guidelines. So, yep.
Emily, I've got questions about 3 of them in
Yes.
mind. They're
No,
really
I-
not policy questions
Sure.
as much as they just triggered reading them, and I thought, oh yeah, I didn't realize this. One of them was claims return. Just wondering, how often does that happen, and do we need to have a time limit in there? Saying, 2 items, is this, people got the license, their library card back in 1970, have 2, and the people who got it in 2015 have 2, and,
We
it doesn't
kinda-
happen really even. I don't know whether you get many claims.
It does happen.
returned.
There are times when somebody returns something and we
Yeah.
put it back and haven't cleared it
Sure.
off their record.
Yeah.
There are times when they haven't returned it.
They
They
mix
actually
up.
underneath the seat of their car.
Right.
And they swear on a stack of Bibles that they returned it.
Right.
So we do kind of like hey, this is a do-over. If we get so many of those over a period of time, that's a red flag for us.
Right. Well, I
I-
noticed the maximum of 2. I just wondered, is that?
It's like usually within a period of time.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Do we need
So
within a 5-year period or something in there?
that's how we usually, that's
Okay.
how we apply.
That's
So
fine.
like if somebody comes, like recently at Belmont, we had a person who claimed a return, swore they returned it. This was their second or third one, and they called me. I said, look, I understand this happened. I'm gonna do it this time.
Right.
And I want you to know we're going to have to maybe take action in the future. And then what happened is the woman's daughter brought the book in and returned it. So it's kind of a do-over. It's like it's a nice do-over.
It's a nice, yeah.
And so it usually de-escalates things. So
Okay.
I have to say managers do really good with that.
Yeah.
applying
I
that
just
when
didn't
they-
know. I mean, it was sort of open-ended.
It's a good question.
Didn't know
Yeah.
whether you wanted a date on it.
Yeah.
On the charging for staff-assisted faxes, do we actually do that? I mean, it seems like they don't. So I'm wondering if we should just.
That's something we need to look at.
Okay. Not a big deal. Just as one of those for down the road.
That's that's up to the board. I mean, so
Yeah.
the intention is we establish the electronic fax so that people could do it self-service. If they walk to the desk and I have to take a 10-page fax
understand
and
that.
feed it to the machine, we want people to recognize that.
Recognize it, yeah.
So
I just didn't
that
know
was the
whether we
intention behind
actually-
that. If we want to change that, we can.
Okay, then also I wondered maximum replacement cost on the computers. That now that we're letting people take them home, it says they're liable for the replacement cost. I don't know. I mean, if I were borrowing one, I'd like to know that something happens, it's not going to be a $5,000 charge, or what's the replacement? Do we have a number
Is
we
it
say not to
I think there is
exceed?
a-
I think
There-
it is
there's
in
a
number
there.
there.
Yeah, there's a number in there.
Is it? I didn't
I
see
think
it.
it's
Yeah, there is-
350, but
Did I miss it?
let me look it up where
When I
it
was
is.
skimming that.
I think it's
There was a
in-
lot to read.
It's in, yeah, it's a lot to
Yes.
read. It's in that policy.
Is it 1212 maybe? Yeah,
$350.
yeah, 1212, policy 1212, and it,
Ah, I didn't read the
Yeah.
back page.
Yeah.
That's why. I didn't flip some here. Okay, it's on the next page, sorry. And then the final one I had has nothing to do with Emily in this. It's the law library and the $2 filing, and we getting our $2? It reminded me.
Oh, you mean the $2 for what the court's supposed to send
Yeah,
over?
we're getting the $2 per,
We're, the court is collecting it.
yep,
The court is transmitting it to the city.
okay.
oh, no,
That-
it's not 12.
That's all I can
Okay,
verify.
that's okay.
No, it's,
Just making sure it was still happening and, you know.
And it
That's
would be
better.
nice if that fee went up because it is not covering the cost of that service.
Right. And maybe that's something, I mean, that's something that the VLA would need to lobby though, but that's the
Well,
state.
I know it's.
I've talked to Mr. Jewett, the clerk of the courts, and he is very aware of what's going on. And at the General Assembly each year, even our special law librarian, Charlie Schmidt, has advocated for that fee to rise.
Right.
And I don't know if many of you may not be familiar, but there's a lot of fees that go on in the courthouse.
Right,
right.
And the sheriff gets paid, the judges, the clerks,
Yeah.
so we keep asking. I think it would help because right now it's not keeping up. Our Westlaw subscription pays for the judges, so that also pays for their subscriptions too. So it's also
not
paying
cheap.
for our public access, so trying to get those fees up, yeah. But we are collecting it.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
it's coming to the city.
Great. Yeah. Emily, thank you so much. You did a great job on it. I just had a couple there.
Are there any other questions? There's a bunch of policies, and I'm not gonna go through all the policies and all the changes, though if anyone was curious about the Chromebook replacement fee, it's in policy 6.3, the mobile device lending program policy, and it is $350 for Chromebooks.
I'll say two things.
Yes.
One, our protection is to have updated policies against all the winds that blow. So this undertaking was enormously important to protect the library from some of those winds. So thank you, and Scott, thank all your team, because this was no small thing.
Big.
The second thing I'll say is it's well worth reading this because I learned all kinds of things we were supposed to be doing. And I'm kind of going, uh-oh, Bill, did you know?
No.
So it was helpful to the library, but I think it's also helpful to the Board of Trustees. Thank you.
I had a question about policy 1204, but accepting gift and donated materials. And it says a book may be accepted for the shelf and sent to technical services for processing if it has a current year copyright and RPL owns the copy, has a copy on order, or has brought the author in the past. So you only accept books that they have a copy of already? Is that, am I interpreting this
Let me
the
get to
wrong
where-
way?
where-
1204.
Mm-hmm.
That's in terms of things that we would add to the collection potentially. But not as a general, you know, in other words, things would go to the friends. We wouldn't say, no, we can't take that because we don't carry that author. But in terms of actually adding to our collection, if somebody donated a brand new book from this year, that's the requirements we've placed on it in the past up to this point.
So we don't have to own another copy of it It just is worded kind of
My
strange.
interpretation of that policy as a non-librarian, former librarian, I guess, is that keeps donations limited to current materials, best-selling items, things that might be really popular right now, but doesn't obligate the library
To
to
take anything.
handle collection development suggestions from the public.
Yeah,
Right.
that's exactly what it does. So it gives us the ability to say yes or no to something, is what that means.
Mhm.
So if if it's a book from 5 years ago, we may not put it in the collection because we didn't get it 5 years ago, maybe it wasn't something we did, but we would consider it, and if we don't, then it would go to the Friends and get sold. So it gives us that ability.
Okay. My other question had to do with policy 1303. It was just a question I had. What is the TV lounge? And then we have channel 98 studio in this plan. What are those things?
Trying to get to it here, hold on a moment.
It's all in the bag. So when that's it, 1303.
And this is the policy on the emergency evacuation plan for
Mhm,
Maine.
mhm.
Those are areas of the library. So there's a lounge area between floors in the old building. That's just one that needs to get checked before if we have a fire threat or something like that. And then the TV studio is that, remember when we brought that Comcast studio over? That's another area of the building that gets checked on the way out the door.
Okay.
So-
I mean, so nobody's located in these. These are just kind of
There are
check-
areas,
areas
there
to
are
be
areas.
checked.
We've listed them to remind there's a building warden and then there's like alternate wardens, so when we have a fire alarm at the building, I think we even have yellow vests, maybe we put on people and they run around and we clear the building and we have designated areas outside that we go to, and so it's just highlighting where things are that we need to go and cover and check. These are all this is stuff that's been pulled from our emergency operations plan, like when we have, egress issues, like to leave the building, bomb threat,
Mhm.
fire threat,
Okay.
earthquake.
Other questions? So do you want to vote on it? Do you want people to read and we vote in it on July? How would you
So
like to
I'm
proceed?
neutral on that question.
Okay.
If you all feel like you would like to vote on these policies and get that 2025 date on them today, that's fine with me. If there are policies where you all have questions and we want to work a little bit more on them,
And we want to discuss it again?
that's
Yeah.
perfectly fine with me also. So
So
keep
what would you
feedback.
guys like to do?
I would like to pause and come back to it.
Okay. Then what we'll do is we'll put this as unfinished business for our July meeting.
And then for the specific questions, I've taken some I will take notes.
Right.
On
Right.
the questions that we've discussed, but could people contact me about those?
So that was
questions?
going to be my
Oh,
next thing. If you have questions, give Emily and Scott the heads up so that they make sure that they are very responsive to what your concerns are. Okay. Sounds like a good plan. All right, on to, well done, by the way, both of you.
Good job.
Well done. Chair report. So I have 3 things. First, this has been the first year where at each meeting, we've either had a branch manager talk to us or we have had a specialist talk to us. We don't have to keep doing this. We don't have to keep doing it the way we're doing it, or we could continue on. Give me your sense of whether this has been a useful addition, and this is a no wrong answer request, or whether you'd like to maybe go in a different direction.
I think it's fantastic. I think just giving us more sight lines to the people who are doing the work day in and day out
Okay.
and making these libraries run as smoothly as they do. So It's great to meet you today.
Yes, I like
Very
it.
big.
Okay,
I
so,
think
so
it's
everyone's,
fantastic.
okay.
We get a feel of the uniqueness of each
Of
library.
each library,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I feel the same way, so we're all in agreement. The second thing I want to do is, it's the end of my first year, and I think it's been an amazingly good year. I think Sharon and I have done a great job with advocacy. I think our policy work is first of its kind, and I could not be happier. Garrett's got a new strategy for governance. Bill, our able finance person, and Janet, facilities is top of our list. So I want to tell you all how much I appreciate what you've done, and I'm grateful for it. And I think it has made this year one of high marks and high accomplishments. The last thing I want to tell you is our next meeting in July. I'm going to talk to you about our two major initiatives for next year. So enjoy your good work. I'm going to give you more for next year. So that's what we'll be doing in July. Let me move on to Bill and Finance.
Not a lot to report on finance. We're doing fine on the budget. We're coming up to the end of the budget year, obviously. The only thing that I have that we need to think about, and I don't know if we can do it today or not, we need to approve the budget for the coming fiscal year. The city has fully approved theirs, so it's in, right?
Right.
So, Scott, do we have a budget that we,
I can distribute, this is the.
okay, we don't have it in the packet, is the?
No, it's not in the packet, but I have the form. This is what the city proposed, and it has the amount that the city is gonna fund us for this next year. And that's the amount that you need to, you can approve and accept as the Library Board of Trustees from the city of Richmond. So this is a formal way of saying, we accept the $10,973,106 that is for Richmond Public Library. It was what was approved as a request to go to city council. It's what they've approved to fund us. And that would then
Right.
formally accept the funding and put it into action. It'll be budgeted and costed out for
Item by
FY
item,
'26,
yeah.
starting July 1. So
Okay.
this report shows you where those funds are allocated and how that works.
So next month, we'll have this new budget into the format that you're used to seeing as far
In
as
the
all
board
of the different
report, yep.
categories and things.
Yep.
But this is the total amount.
Yep.
So I'd like to ask, make a motion that we approve the budget as submitted, and this is the submission. If I can ask someone to,
Can we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
okay?
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anyone opposed?
I will
Alright.
say it's a nice budget to have for the year. So we've already talked about that, I think, the last two meetings, but it's nice to have it firmed up and that nothing happened to us
Right.
in the final stages.
Right.
So,
And we'll look through that policy 10.1, which has other things we're supposed to be formally approving.
Right.
And we'll get that on the list. And we'll ask Jonna to remind us at the close of each fiscal year that we're supposed to,
to do that.
that we're supposed to do this, so that we are all, well done, Bill.
And I'm gonna add one more piece of housekeeping that council initiated, and this is what they do at the end of each fiscal year. So in past years, the library has remaining funds that we don't spend, and those go back to the city.
Right.
They've been as much as $500,000 some years. That's costs for float for vacancy savings or things didn't get purchased. This year, we had to have money put into our account to bring us whole. And there's an ordinance, it's a corrective ordinance that they put forward that went up on June 23. It's ordinance 2025-143. So they are adding $849,584 to our budget, and that will correct it for the overruns that occurred for market adjustments, for seeking funds for overages in VRS transition, healthcare, and temporary services.
And Scott, that's for the budget that's closing out.
That's for the budget
Right.
that's closing
That's
out.
not for the ongoing, which will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I think it's the first time it's ever happened to us,
First
since
time
I've been
since
on
I've
the
been
board.
here,
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
and we were one of the, we weren't the only ones, so they move money around across the board when they do these,
Yeah.
they call it a realignment essentially.
yeah.
The biggest one was fire. They were about $4.7 million over in their overtime. And one of the questions was, why is fire over? Don't you all know what's going on? Well, the thing that they explained was that fire has mandatory overtime, and they had less vacancy savings. So they count on vacancy savings to mitigate overtime costs. They didn't have vacancy savings. They also had raises in costs like we experienced as well. So that's how they ran over about $4.7 million in their budget. So this is a common thing that happens.
Yeah.
Do we like to be under budget? I like to be right on budget. You
I
know?
was gonna say,
I like to be
I don't
right
like
on
turning
budget.
money back in, no.
But the big driver was the VRS. The VRS
Yeah.
was because we came in at mid-year. We transitioned from RRS to VRS, and it was a mid-year. So when VRS gave the city the actuarial assessment of how much it was going to cost, they missed it by about 3%, which 3% is quite a bit. And it also depended on each agency's demographics. So if you had a lot of people
Close
who
retirement.
in legacy programs or in new programs, they didn't know what the cost would be. So that was one of the big drivers for this. Healthcare costs also went up, and you know, they added, one of the big benefits they added this year was it's like AFLAC, it's long-term care. So long-term care and short-term and long-term, short-term care was added to all employees because that was a benefit in VRS. Legacy RRS members did not have that benefit, so the city put that benefit in, so that drove healthcare costs up as well. So those were huge drivers. I believe we're gonna address those in the next fiscal year, but we're gonna have to monitor that. Other drivers in our costs were, security has gone up probably 30% in cost. And that happened mid-year, so that was a driver. And our other, you know, just part-time and temporary folks cost us more. So I wanted to explain that because that was a question Sharon had last month. Well, what do we do if we don't have the money? This is how we fix it, is with an ordinance, and it's fairly common practice. But, I mean, we like to be on target. We don't like to miss our mark. I don't. So it's been very stressful.
Can imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, facilities, Janet.
Okay, I'm awake. So I am very excited to present the encyclopedia of facilities. Scott has been working so hard for at least a year, and a bunch of library staff have contributed. And, you know, he had meetings with all the staff. We did the survey. Is that still open?
It's still open. We have, we've gotten over 600 respondents to the survey. A lot of good data there.
And most recently, there were community forum, next 100 community forum meetings, 8 meetings. I was able to go to 6 of them.
Wow.
That was from May 29 to June 7th at all the branches to collect input from citizens. And those were very interesting. I feel like you got good information.
Janet was with me the whole time. We were 1-2ing them the whole time. And
Go girl,
Janet
yeah.
got to hear feedback from the community, and it was all really good.
It was good.
The PowerPoint is in your packet. That's the PowerPoint.
And it's an
we gave.
excellent PowerPoint.
Right, so all of that is in here, plus a lot more. So, this is for Chris.
We also have benchmarks in there. So the original 2009 report compared us to about 12 libraries across the country. I've updated those benchmarks on Bibliostat data from across the country, and I've created a table. We haven't synthesized it yet, but we have the data, and it's very helpful. I think Janet and I were looking at, like, you know, per capita spending, collection size, square footage. It's great to compare us to other libraries around the country. The other thing that we've included in there, and Heather helped a lot with this, was census data. We've got a lot of good census data, and Janet was commenting on just the poverty rates, you know, across our city. One side of the city, it's 20%. In the district we're sitting right now, what is it? 6%. So it tells us a lot about the people we serve, the buildings we're serving them in. We got some, just great feedback from those focus groups, and the feedback from the survey is helpful. And so it's contained in there. It's really just a start. We need to synthesize that down, and we have recommendations that we're working on that we want to come out of this with. We're trying to figure out the best way to do that. We'd like to share what we've got with our other board members and bring in possibly a consultant to help us, shape it. Somebody who knows, who's done this before, who can help us look at the data we've gathered and provide it
Make
very
it-
objectively and strategically so we can achieve what we're doing.
Make an executive summary, which all the stakeholders would get, all of you and the city people. We're not gonna give everybody this.
No, of course not, yeah.
But we'll take all the best information from here and figure out how to present it so that people can look at it and say, wow, this is a great library system, and look at some of the challenges and what does the city need to do to meet those challenges. So
And we've
that'll
been-
be the next steps.
We've been very deliberate to just report and inventory, not assess. Because we don't want this to be a document that comes back to us that says well, you said this happened and you needed to fix this. We didn't want to do that. We just wanted to make comment on it because we know that this is a record, and we want it to be a record, but we want it to be a recording of where we're at so it can help us move forward to where we want to be. And I'm very grateful to hear, I think we heard a lot of really good stuff.
We did.
And it verified things that we thought we were seeing, but it helped us see them more clearly. We just need to get it into packages that can be aligned with strategy and where we want to go.
So every single meeting, someone asked for study rooms. So
Yeah.
we ought to follow up on that.
They also asked for larger meeting rooms. I just reported to Chris this morning, poor Lisa had a puppet show here, had 71 people show up, people as far away as Goochland, and we had to turn them away.
Oh, wow.
Now, that's just no good.
No.
We've all, at this time this year, we've been to all of our branch libraries, and this is a generous meeting room for some of our branches.
This
Go to
is
Belmont,
palatial.
it's the smallest.
Yeah.
I think to really be doing our best, we need to do better.
I
So-
agree.
And this
Good
report will
work.
help us get there.
Good work, yes.
What is any updates, or what's the status on the renovation of the main library?
So we have that as a finding, and that's one of our recommendations. Let's do something about it. So,
What do we do?
well, I think, again, this report is going to help us get there. It's going to bring that issue back up. We're going to be challenged again. You just approved the budget for next year. In that was $1 million to start to purchase a bookmobile to address some of these really critical needs. And what are we going to do about Maine? I think that all of us have been here now for many years, and I think that's been the number one. What are we going to do about Maine? What are we going to do about Maine? We have a very nice aspirational plan. It's time to do something about Maine. Earlier this year, the mayor asked us about that question. We prepared Susan helped prepare a one-page report. That's in the report. Just the nuts and bolts of what we need to do. I think people want to help us. We need to give them the facts that they can use to persuade themselves to help us. So that's where I think this will take us. And it'll be good for us to share it, talk about it more, align it with our strategy as a board, get some outside assistance to really refine it. I had an architect the other day, I shared this with him, and he said, you got a lot of balls in the air. You need to catch one of those balls and do something with it because you're going to drop one. And he's 100% right about that.
Oh,
So-
I don't know. Oh, I don't know.
Is there anything in there about proposals to go out and get places in the community, satellite, places? Is
I'm
that
calling it the
part
5 and 5. I think we need 5 libraries north, or 5 or more libraries north of the river, 5 libraries south of the river. Right now, we have 3 libraries south of the river, and I think this process has showed us where our voids in service are and presented us with opportunities. And, the priorities when we started, when the board said, Belmont, Westover Hills, and East End are our oldest branches, and those need to be renovation first. Yes, it's not a yes to that, but yes, and we need to look at all of our different options out there, and we're steadily pursuing those. And Chris will tell me all the time, there's 100 million things we're going to go for. Not all of them are going to stick. but we're-
Markets decide.
Yep.
We
And
don't pick one.
We can't pick one.
The market picks.
Right.
We don't pick. We give
Right.
them choices. We see where we have champions, and we help them as much as we can.
I'm
Yep.
just thinking, are we, anything that's gonna happen is gonna take 4-5 years.
And
Do we
you're
have a-
exactly right.
Do we have a strategic plan as to the
So
steps
we'll
we're
talk
gonna
about
take,
that in
or
July.
a timeline or something?
We're gonna talk about
like
that in July.
you know?
And I'm going to cut this conversation off because we can only go to one, right?
You can run the meeting as long as you need to.
Oh, I thought there was a time frame. Okay,
Did you-
Sharon,
did you-
sorry. Go ahead, talk away.
No,
Yeah.
Did you see a time frame
wondered
in
if we
any
had, if we had a strategic plan or a timeline as to the steps we're gonna take to make these things happen. I don't want us to drag our feet. And that, the more we do that, the longer it's gonna take for this to happen. And our community has needs. Right now, people all, coming to me, I need space, I need spaces, I need spaces.
Well, I
That's a
think the
big thing.
executive summary will set some priorities like that. And I don't think there'll be a numbered list, do this, do this, do this. But I think priorities and the greatest need will be obvious when you read this document. And maybe even, I don't know about a time frame. I'll defer to Scott on
But Sharon's
that,
not wrong.
No, you're not wrong.
Sharon's not wrong. It always takes longer. It
right.
always takes longer. Yeah. Anything
I'm
else?
excited, aren't you guys?
You should. Well done, kids. Well done.
It's very happy.
Governance.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Chair Peterson. And good afternoon, everyone, again. So just to kind of recap where we are and where we're going to moving forward as it relates to governance, the biggest thing that we want to do and strive for as we move forward is to make sure that we're having representation across the entire city of Richmond on this board. I know right now we have maybe multiple people in certain districts, so as we're kind of looking at moving forward and people unfortunately moving off the board, we want to make sure we utilize it as an opportunity to make sure that we're diversifying the board as much as possible. So with that in mind, the last couple of months, I've been in constant conversations with people throughout the city of Richmond, really getting the chance to really understand their understanding of not only the city of Richmond, but also our libraries. What are our strengths, what are our challenges, and what do they want to see the library go in the future. So through those conversations, we've been able to meet a lot of great people. And I want to thank so many people in this room for recommending people to actually join this particular board. Those conversations were great. I feel like I gained some friends through this process. But through that, I was able to narrow it down to 2 people whom I then had Chair Peterson speak with over the last couple of days. And then we connected. I think we came to a really strong decision for someone to join on our board. So that person I'm really excited about. Some of you may actually even know this person because he's been around forever. But his name is Antoine Green. Antoine is someone who has been involved within the city of Richmond for quite some time. He has done a lot of work as the lead of Richmond Crusade for Voters, which is where I met him many years ago. He has been involved in everything you can imagine within the city from a political and also just from a community perspective. Some of the work that I just wanted to walk you through so you have an understanding of what his background is. He is a product of Richmond Public Schools. He was born and raised in the 5th District and currently still lives there. He has served on many different boards and commissions throughout the city of Richmond already. And through conversations with him, I know that he's very much so committed to making sure that we have growth within our public libraries. He has a significant amount of experience, which I found very appealing in the philanthropic and also fundraising spaces. So he spent a significant amount of time as bringing on Patrick Henry Charter School within the city of Richmond in the 5th District, and raising the funds to not only stand that school up, but also continue to have it stand to where it is now and thriving without a lot of assistance from Richmond Public Schools. So I really think that he would be a great addition to this board, and he understands the city's landscape from District 1 to District 9. And I think that is also important as well, because he is well equipped to go into any part of the city and be able to advocate on behalf of the board along with the rest of us. One thing that also I thought was really, really cool when we were talking in our many conversations is that he knew so many librarians around the city. I mean, he was just naming them out. He was just like, I remember back in 1985, you know, I had this person that I went to, and we kind of had that alike, because obviously, you know, me growing up on the South Side and being in the 4th District and going to West Silver Hills and seeing some of those same faces that were there when I was a little kid that are still there to this day, which makes me feel slightly old now. But, you know, it's, I think that's the type of person that we want to have to join our board. And be a part of our mission of really pushing not only the good work that's happening every single day within our 9 libraries, but also speaking on what we want to see. You know, like we just mentioned on facilities, we want to see more happen with Main Library. We want to see these satellites happen, and that comes through all of the advocacy that we're doing collectively. So,
Do we need to vote on this? No.
To recommend it to council.
I thought in the past,
did.
the board voted on it, and they made a recommendation to council as to who the person they wanted. Then you pass that on to council, and they decide what they're gonna do.
They don't have to follow what we say, but it's nice if we can say we've had a vote
Okay.
that.
Okay. Okay. Make a
yeah,
motion.
so I would like to make a motion in recommending Antoine Green to join our Board of Trustees.
Do we need to say to replace Gail Zwerner?
Yeah, they'll.
They'll know that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
they'll know. Yeah, it's the only opening
It's
we
the open
have.
spot.
Okay. Okay.
Fill an unexpired
Okay.
term.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No one's opposed? All right. Has this been the best meeting? My
Very
gosh,
good.
everyone's doing so well. One last thing before we go home, and that is unfinished business and the 3-board retreat. So this was the first time the trustees had hosted a 3-board gathering, and I think we were great hosts. It was also the first time Reagan Flacker, our Library of Virginia person, and I had created a activity for all 3 boards sitting together. She works with the 94 library systems throughout Virginia, and she deals separately with trustees, separately with friends, separately with foundations, separately with directors. She had never brought all that information together. The first part she and I crafted, the advocacy part was a standard but very, I thought, well-received advocacy. I want us to begin thinking, one, was this valuable to the people at our tables? So you guys, we had a trustee at each table along with foundation and friends people. I got feedback just from Ashley Payne and Cynthia, and I didn't get any other feedback. So tell me, did you find the people at your table bored?
They were engaged.
Do you think so?
I think so.
Okay. What did you think, Sharon?
Yeah, I thought it was a valuable experience.
Did you? Okay. So if you have other thoughts, let me know, because we want to do better, because we always want to do better. And we were given 2 general topics that people wanted to hear. One, they want to talk more about advocacy and good examples and who to say. I mean, advocacy, they were on fire. The other thing is they want to know each group's priorities. So those were 2 themes for future meetings. We don't have to do this every year. We don't have to do it every other year. We want to incorporate the 3 board meetings into our strategy for the future. So it's a tool, not a function, you know what I mean? So just give that all some thought, and next month, give me a sense of how often you think we should be hosting, and if there were topics you felt would be good topics for the next one. We put this together in 5 weeks, and that was stressful. A little more time would be a even better product. Any other comments we want to make about the 3 board meeting?
I thought it did a nice job of clarifying a situation, or clarifying something that we'd had conflicts in the past about.
That was my
Okay.
Bill, that was my number 1 goal. Who does what?
And we'd had, now I think there've been some changes in the foundation, and over time,
Yeah,
we've been sort of on track with that.
Right.
For the last couple of years. But we went through a period of time where the foundation felt like they should be guiding, you know, and if you look even at the policies, we're supposed to even help them
Right.
direct what we want them to raise funds for. They're not supposed to go out on their own and say, here's what we're gonna do.
Right.
So I think it was nice that we saw there's a lot of overlap between what everyone does, a great deal of it, whether it's Friends, Foundation, or the board, but they're really clear where the responsibility for each thing lies.
Right.
And it was the first time that that's been said. I think it's been followed, but
and we tried to set the stage with a lot of
We
interactive
did.
activities at the
for
table
that.
so that everybody would feel. And I want to make sure Reagan said it, not me, so.
it was good.
I also thought it might have been helpful to you, Scott, to know that you go to the Friends for this, you go to the Foundation for that. We're in charge. I mean,
Yeah.
there was overlap, but she was also pretty clear
There is some
as
clear
to who
responsibility
who's-
or calls the shots on this.
who's on base for her.
Both.
Yeah, I thought Reagan was a great choice, and I thought she did
Yeah. She understood those 3 real well.
really good job. Yeah, I was glad. Check, done, good. Okay, so give that some thought. Anything else we want to talk about? All right, next meeting is at Ginter Park in July, but I don't have the date available, so you will all know. Is it?
23rd.
23rd, okay. 23rd, Ginter Park Branch. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Sharon, thank you. A second?
Second.
Good job. Well done, everyone. High
you,
water mark for board meetings.